Hey everyone, today we are going to talk about reinforcing your predictable success organization as we're coming out of the COVID-19 crisis. Now, the COVID-19 is here for a while, going to be here for a while. I don't know when it's going to stop and when things are going to go back to normal, or even if they go back to normal. But what I am here to talk about, and what I'm really genuinely excited to talk about, is businesses who were in predictable success at the start of the COVID-19 crisis. So businesses that were in the fourth stage of the predictable success life cycle, the stage that we call predictable success, in March. We're going to talk about what those businesses should be doing now to not only survive the crisis, but to really genuinely, truly thrive because of it. Real quick catch up. If you haven't seen the earlier videos in this series, I'm walking through each of the each of the 7 life cycle stages in the predictable success life cycle, and talking about what your business should be doing if it was in whichever one of those stages when the crisis began. We talked through early struggle, the first stage of a business. What do you do if you just started a business, or if you're thinking about starting a new business? I've talked to probably over 100 people by now that have thought about, should I be starting a business now? Is now the right time? Maybe they lost their job, maybe they see an opportunity, whatever it may be. We talked through whether or not folks should be doing that, and what decision-making tree they should use, what factors should go into that. Second one we did, this was 2 weeks ago now, we talked about businesses and fun. Fun is the second stage of the predictable life cycle. It's where you've been through early struggle, you've fought through it, you found, what we would say is, you found a profitable, sustainable market. And then fun is all about mining that profitable and sustainable market. And you know, it's fun, it's not easy, but man, it's fun. And the timing was pretty lousy. If your business had just gotten into fun, or you enjoying that period of fun, and the COVID crisis hit, it's a tough time, but there's some real distinct advantages that fun businesses had with respect to this specific crisis. So if your business was, you got through that early stage, you got to profitability, and you were there, things were going great, and then all of a sudden things weren't going so great, check out the video where we talk about rebuilding your fun business. Then last week we talked about what do you do? How do you regroup a whitewater business? Businesses that were in whitewater, the third stage. Whitewater is this nasty time between fun and predictable success, where the business doesn't have that agility it had in predictable success, but it doesn't have the depth that an organization in predictable success has. So they're kind of stuck in the middle. It's an awkward time. It's kind of like being a teenager in some ways. Massive challenges for whitewater organizations when COVID hit. A lot of these businesses weren't experiencing the profitability that they were used to. They were struggling to grow. Maybe they had opened another location and just couldn't get it to work. Whatever it was, they had kind of bitten off a little bit more than they can chew, and that is what the whitewater process is all about. They need to find systems and processes, but trying to implement a raft of new systems and processes in an environment like the one that we have now is very, very challenging. And for most, it meant taking a step back, and for others, really taking that step forward and getting through whitewater into predictable success. It really depends on what kind of industry you're in, and how far and how deep in whitewater you were to start. But all of that aside, quick catch up. We've been through the first 3 phases. Now we're at stage 4. We're at the predictable success. Predictable success is where an organization not only is growing, it's not doing that organic growth thing anymore. Growth isn't controlling the business is controlling its growth, and they grow rapidly. Now, your business may or may not be growing rapidly if you're in predictable success right now. A lot of great businesses have stalled. Even some great businesses have taken a step back. So it's not all about, how much are we growing at any given point in time. A lot of that, quite honestly, especially in the short run, depends on your industry. But what we're talking about is the capacity of the organization to create growth. And we're seeing amazing things happening in predictable success organizations, and we'll talk about that a little bit as we go through. The word that we're using for predictable success organizations is to reinforce. Reinforce your position in predictable success. Predictable success organizations have whitewater on one side, they have treadmill on the other side. And what happens in a time of crisis is that they'll get pushed in one way or the other. And what we're going to talk about now is how do you draw that back into the middle, and how do you seize opportunities? Because predictable success organizations, of all of them, were in the best position to, again, not only survive the crisis, but to actually thrive because of it, not in spite of it, but because of it. All right, let's jump into that. There's a quote that I've been using for a while now, and it's by a guy, Baron Rothschild, from 18th century. Guy made a ton of money when in the panic that followed the Battle of Waterloo. So the British, the French fight, everyone in Britain freaks out. This guy makes a ton of money. Bit mercenary, I'll admit. It's not exactly the thing that everyone wants to be known for. But he had a saying that I think is really important. He said, "The time to buy is when there's blood in the streets." And fortunately, we do not have blood in the streets, and this isn't about that at all. But what he's getting at and what this is about is when there is, I'm going to say, economic chaos, when there is disruption in the status quo, that's the time to buy. The problem is that most of us do the exact opposite thing. The example I used all the way back at the beginning of the crisis is we're all buying high and selling low right now. When we should be going out and pushing, we're holding back. And understand why. It's human nature to do that. The flight, fright, and freeze thing is on overdrive for a lot of people. There's a lot of uncertainty. I understand all of that. But predictable success businesses, more than any other, this saying rings true for them, and they have more to gain now than I believe they've lost over the 5-6 months that we've been kind of in the throes of this. A quick note on this, and I've kind of alluded to it, but if your business was not in predictable success before the crisis started, maybe you had been through it and were on the other side, maybe you hadn't made it there yet, whatever it may be, this article, this session will kind of give you an idea of why predictable success is actually one of the best ways to recession-proof your business. Now, massive disruption in any given industry, that's going to happen. In a geographic area, that's going to happen. But the best bet that we all have for being able to, again, not only survive a recession, an economic crisis, but to thrive through it, even grow faster because of it, is to get our businesses in predictable success. Why is this so important? Predictable success is really hard to do. It's unnatural for visionary leaders to get to this point. It's awkward going through whitewater. It's very difficult and to a degree grueling to get through that whitewater period, put those systems and processes in place, and get there. It's one of those things that there's always something more pressing to do. There's always something that's more urgent. There's always something that feels more important. But when the tide goes out, Warren Buffett said, we can see who had their trunks on and who didn't. And what we're seeing now is those folks who did the hard work of getting into and then also staying in predictable success, they're really reaping the benefits of it. It's a hard time for everyone. I'm not saying that it's easy, but they're finding themselves now. The tide's gone out and they're ready for it. So for all the rest of us who weren't in predictable success yet or who had been there and gotten out, it's a great lesson for us that there's no better time to pursue the depth of organizational health and innovation and system than now. And if your business, if you haven't done that, that you're going to do it, especially if you're in whitewater, you're in treadmill, you really, really want to stop with your leaders and take them up and say, hey, is this what we want to do? And I think for a lot of you, it's going to be yes. But best way to recession-proof your business is to get it into predictable success. But being in predictable success is not enough in and of itself. So those who are in predictable success, some of them are struggling. Some of them are struggling a lot right now. But most of them, it's not easy. Predictable success isn't kind of a panacea that everything's easy. You have to work at it. You have to work to stay in predictable success. That's the real challenge. And what I've done as I've been working with different clients and different companies over the course of the pandemic and just watching how people are responding, understanding the patterns and the models that are driving those patterns, what I've done is put together a three-phase plan that I think is very, very helpful for businesses who are in predictable success, who want to accelerate out of it. Three different stages. The first one is to prune back quickly. We're going to talk about this in more detail, but I'll just introduce them real quick. Second one is to go scrappy, right? Predictable success organizations can be very, very large, but what they have over their larger, more lethargic competitors is this ability to kind of get back in the trenches, to get scrappy, to get back in touch with their visionary and operator roots. And we're going to talk about that. It's awesome. And then finally, get strategic. What predictable success organizations can do that their younger brothers, and sisters, that those who are not quite yet at predictable success, is they're able to get strategic faster than everybody else. And this is the massive advantage of predictable success organizations. They may be affected, just like or nearly like everybody else in the short run, but what we're going to see over the next 24 months is going to be a massive difference. We feel like the tide has gone out now. What we're really going to see over the next 2 years is a massive separation between those who were able to overcome the urgent in the short run and get strategic early. They're going to gain so much more momentum, so much faster than the competition. All right, so how do we do all this? First, prune back quickly. In predictable success, it can feel relatively good, easy. You may have been trying new things. You may have been doing new HR initiatives and everything like that. If you've not done it already, which, I can't imagine that many predictable success organizations are still hanging on here, but you got to prune back. There's not really a way for most businesses to sustain long-term growth coming out of the crisis if they haven't pruned back as a result of the short-run crisis. This may, it may mean deep cuts. It may not mean deep cuts. That doesn't really matter. You know what it is. Intuitively, instinctively, we should not be holding on to this. Whatever this is, you got to stop holding on to it. Maybe a new division, maybe a new product. It may be a new initiative. It doesn't matter what it is. If you've not cut that thing that you really need to cut, it's time to do that. And the reason for that is, the reason that that's so essential is you have to create capacity. There's so much going on right now, and there's so much work just to keep up status quo that we have to create capacity by removing some of these things that we know we shouldn't be hanging on to. And that gives us room to go scrappy. It gives us room to make decisions quickly, to work on new approaches. Now that we see, hey, this is what's going on in the crisis, this is where it's landing, we can start trying things. And what predictable success organizations can do better than anyone is to think in terms of trying or trialing instead of committing. Jim Collins talks about this in Good to Great. The principle is fire bullets and then cannonballs, and I'll recommend you read the book. It's fantastic. But the basic premise is this. What a lot of people are doing right now is they're pivoting. And I've written about this a couple times. I have a couple more articles that are coming. Pivoting your business is very, very dangerous. What we want to do is we want to innovate. We want to be looking across the entire organization, not just a couple people at the top or some specific division. We want to find out, okay, who is it that we serve? What do they need now? And really, what are they going to continue to need over the coming years? And that's the difference between pivoting and innovating is, pivoting is reacting and say, oh, we have to make sales, we have to do something. Innovating is saying we have an opportunity to do this and consciously deciding to do that. And the best way to do that is to try things. So where a predictable success company may have one or two big initiatives that they're going after, what I'm recommending now is that you pare that back in terms of the size of the initiative, but have more initiatives. So where you had one or two big ones, 5 to 10 small initiatives is going to be the way, because that's the best way to combat the uncertainty that we have right now. We don't know which one of those is going to do. So we don't know which one's going to land. And if we put everything together, fire a big cannonball, and it's a miss, we're out of luck. But if we fire bullets in a few directions and then only go after the ones that strike, that's where we're really going to start to get a sense of where this thing is going strategically. Got to get scrappy first to do that. You can't go straight to strategic. We understand everything. We got a 5-year plan. It's a joke right now. But you can get scrappy and say, hey, we're trying 5, maybe 10 things, and we're going to find the ones that work. Key with that, and we're not quite here yet, but something you want to keep in mind that is actually harder than trying new things is letting go of the ones that don't hit. So as you're trying these things, make sure that you're killing the ones that don't land quickly. So if you try 5 things, you may get one that works. You have to let go of the other 4 very quickly so that you can really coalesce and work toward that one. Another thing that I've seen a lot of folks struggle to do actually is to get out front. We have so much noise going on. And what we need is we need leaders to give us a path forward. We don't need complainers to a certain extent. We don't need the conspiracy theory and all of this and opinions and everything. We genuinely need leadership right now. And I believe that business leaders are an important part of that. Not the only part, but a very important part of that. And so we need strong leaders to get out front, give us a path forward, and do it visibly. And predictable success organizations, they have the leadership to do that, but they also have the muscle to make good on it. And that's something that we all need right now. Things that you can be doing: supporting heroes in your industry, giving free advice, helping people to understand where it's going, showing up in your strength. There's so many things that the business can be doing. And even though it may not be transactional right now, you're generating brand, you're generating goodwill. You have more to gain in terms of positive brand recognition and awareness and user engagement. You can do way more of that now than really we could have over probably the last 10 years. And you can do it more effectively, and it's going to matter more over the next coming years. So again, just kind of recap, make your decisions quickly. You can do that by thinking in terms of trying instead of committing. Instead of committing to 1 or 2 big initiatives, try 5 to 10 initiatives and get out front. We need you to step up. We need you to help lead us all forward. Do it in your area of strength, and everyone will benefit from that. All right, phase 3. This is the third of the 3 phases in the strategy. So let's say you've pruned back where you needed to. You gave yourself some space. You've started trying things. You've got 5 to 10 different initiatives going. You're getting feedback on those. You're getting out in front, talking with customers about it. What we've got now is we have to be making the shift in predictable success organizations from the urgent to the important, from the tactical to the strategic. And at a leadership level, for the individual leaders themselves, this is actually really hard to do. You see, what happens in crisis is we go down, we go to the ground level, and we get stuff done. And there's actually, just the hit of dopamine that comes whenever you have a task, you start it, and you finish it. When you're leading an organization in predictable success, that's not the normal way things work. Normally it's we have an idea, we try a couple of things, and we're working on these longer projects that oftentimes don't necessarily feel done. It's not like, hey, we have to solve this crisis, we have to find a new supplier, and it's done. We don't get to check it off the list nearly like we were able to when we got real tactical at the beginning of this crisis. But the problem is when you go tactical, you go urgent, you go reactionary, you're not being proactive. We're not actually creating during that time. Oftentimes we're just responding. We're reacting to what's going on. And so what this requires of leaders in predictable success organizations is that they individually have to let go of the reins a little bit. They have to let go of that, I got something done today, and they have to start stepping into this very cloudy and uncertain space, which is the strategic, where are we going as a business? But that's the responsibility of leaders right now. And that brings me to the second point here, which is the hard work of seeing clearly. You see, Russ Fletcher, I heard him in an interview actually with Les McEwen, and he jokingly said, my crystal ball is a little muddy right now. And if you're leading an organization, any organization, but especially if you're in predictable success, you're feeling that. You're feeling that sense of, hey, there's just not the same clarity that we're used to. We don't have the data to go off of. We don't even have the past individual experience to make decisions on. And so much of what we need leaders, especially in predictable success organizations, to be doing now is ruthlessly pursuing clarity. We can't get around the uncertainty. It's here. It's outside of our control. There's not much we can do, but we can be absolutely clear on how we're responding. Now that may change. It may change repeatedly. It may change often, but we can be crystal clear on every step of the way. But the only way to lead clearly is to be clear, to have clear understanding. This means you're probably going to have to step back again from that tactical. You might have to get out of the office or away from your computer or your home office for a little while, since many of us are still working from home. Turn off the news, dial back social media, get back in touch with what your gut is telling you, right? One of the things about getting back into the tactical is that we go by our gut. We make those instinctive decisions. Don't let that go when you start getting into strategic thought process. A couple other things. Look to history. This is not the first economic crisis. It's not even the first pandemic. There's so much about today that's unprecedented, but Solomon said there's nothing new under the sun, and that's really the case. And so look at your industry, what it's done in the past. Look outside of your industry. What happened in other industries that were similar to yours in terms of where they were going and where they were headed and when a crisis hit. Look at other industries that are now that are mature and dying because of the crisis. What can you learn from them? Look at other industries that are new and rising and actually thriving because of the crisis. What can you pull from outside of the industry in? In my work, I get the benefit of working across all kinds of different industries, and I can tell you the best insights almost never come from inside your industry. The best insights come from outside your industry, where you pull them in and bring them into what you're doing. And this is a great way to get clear right now. And then finally, seek counsel. If you don't have someone that you can trust to help give you clarity, it's really tough to get clear on your own. It's really tough to see past your own bias and subjectivity. It's very difficult to see objectively past the people that you're working with and what's happened so far. It's tough to even let go of what was and see what are the benefits of this new normal that's coming. And then finally, last part of this phase here is the hard work of standing in the gap. And this is where leaders have a really significant responsibility right now. And it's that when you're being clear right now, that's a very risky thing to do. It's easy to hide behind the uncertainty. It's easy to try and step back and not do anything, or wait a little bit longer, or try and see what's going on before you make the leap. But that's not leadership. That's followership. And that's okay. If that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. But those who are really going to thrive because of this crisis are those that are going to stand in the gap. They're gonna step into the uncertainty deeper and more committed than anyone else. And because of that, they're going to be able to see clearer faster. Because they can see clearer faster, they're actually going to make better decisions now that may not make as much sense now, but because they've put in the time to get clarity, it's obvious. It's obvious what they need to do. And this is the main kind of point where diligence and discipline is needed for leaders, because it's going to be the gravitational pull is back into today. It's to relax into the uncertainty and let it kind of run its course, and that's not the way to go. It really is not the way to go. All right, I want to close with this. There's a Chinese proverb that says everything basically that I've just said in 17 words, and it's this: the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. And if your business was not in predictable success before this started, then what does that mean for you? It means that you need to get through this urgent, whatever that kind of threatening line is for your business, and you need to look at, okay, how do we get into or back into predictable success? If you're in predictable success, the best time to get strategic was yesterday. The second best time is now. And so if you haven't pruned back, it's time to prune back. If you haven't given yourself the right to get scrappy, be a little bit messy in how you do things, not what you provide to customers, but in how you do things internally. And get clear, get strategic, then you need to walk through those steps. And if you're listening to it saying, hey, yes, but how? I'd be honored to help you with it. I'd be honored to show you the way. You can check out the blog. There's lots of resources on there. There's an article I wrote just about this topic. I've just finished my schedule for content coming up for the rest of the year, and we're talking a lot about this. So consider this an introduction to the next 6 months of content, but you may not have 6 months to wait, and if that's the case, give me a call, let me know where you're at, and we'll talk about what we can do to help get you to not only survive the crisis, but to actually thrive because of it. I wish you the absolute best and look forward to seeing you next week. Take care.